Welcome to They Said, She Heard, the podcast where words become turning points. I'm your host, Samantha Gibson. Here we talk with leaders, dreamers, and change makers about one simple question. What was said to you, and how did it move you forward, set you back, or make you rebuild? Because sometimes the words that break us are the same ones that build who we become. I am super excited to have you guys join me. If you are brand new to the podcast, I hope you enjoy so much that you continue to visit us. So I have someone really special here today with me. His name is Ed. Ed, will you let everybody know your full name, your title, and what company you're with?
My title?
An entrepreneur.
Ed Cunningham is my name. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I wear lots of hats. We can go from CEO to investor to I ride motorcycles.
That's good. Good enough. We'll take it. So I am going to go ahead before we get started on the question. Want to make sure we do this week's shout outs. The first one is to Ashley Kildew. She is my loan officer, my go-to gal that is helping me record this audio, visual, and everything in between. I will make sure to connect all her social media handles. So if you guys have any needs, she is your gal. And I also want to do a follower shout out. I think it is so important that we give credit where it is due week over week. This week, quite honestly, I want to give it to all of you guys. The amount of support that I have received, I very early on knew I'm not looking to have millions of downloads. I'm not looking to have millions of followers. What I am looking for is to know that I've made a difference in at least one human being's life. Combination of the stories I share with you guys and also the people that I bring to the table. In a very short amount of time, the feedback that I've received of how the messages are being received and how inspirational they are remind me to keep going. And it reminds me the critical importance of having platforms like this with messages like this so that everyone, it doesn't matter your title, the organization you're with, but that we can really talk about real topics, real subjects with, I don't want to say no filter attached, but in such an authentic way that it allows people and it reminds you that you are human and it is allowed and okay to be exactly that, a human. So we're going to go ahead and dive on in. I am going to go ahead, Ed, and ask you that question of the podcast. What was something said to you and how did it move you forward, set you back, or make you rebuild?
You know, this is a great question. I know you threw this out to me a few days ago and went back and forth with, because I have so many stories. I have one of those weird lives. My mom once told me, she said, "Sons, your life's the kind of life you just want to pull out a lawn chair and a margarita and watch." And none of it was ever truly planned. It just kind of has happened the way it has happened. But going over all of the stories that I've told, I asked a bunch of people, on the podcast that you've seen me on, what were some of the stories that would answer this question the best? And it was Cheryl, who was the one that talked about charity. It's crazy because after, oh my gosh, it's been several decades since this story happened, but it made such a huge impact on my life. So I had just gotten out of the military. I had gone through my first divorce, ended up being single dad, 2 kids with shared custody at first. I've ended up with full custody. Eventually, it took me a few years to get it. I made some bad financial decisions and I ended up living in my car. And it was absolutely humiliating for me. I had literally had a job since I was 9 years old and started my own paper route. And I had always been able to provide for myself, provide for my family. When I had a family, I had 4 part-time jobs. I was donating plasma. I moonlit as a bouncer. I would go to the day labor office on any day that I had off and I'd work the farm fields. And I was doing everything I can to get back on my feet. And I ended up with a guy that was a billionaire by the name of Bill Gould. And he became a mentor of mine. I didn't know he was a billionaire when I met him, but he saw how hard I was working and took me under his wing and mentored me. He told me, he said, "You are so lucky you're broke." I said, "How?" And he goes, "You have the whole world in front of you. He goes, you got nothing to lose. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Honestly, music. I grew up around music." He goes, "Pursue music." He goes, "Stop pursuing money. Start pursuing what you love. The money comes with it. The cream rises to the top. The money comes with it." I started that way. And in doing that, I was still broke. I did get on my feet. I did get a place. I did get custody of my kids, but I started pursuing music and I started loving my life. And that's when things really started kind of ballooning for me. I was still pretty much living in poverty. But what ended up happening was, and this is one of the craziest turning points of my life, but I had saved up enough money that I was invited to go to this business conference in LA and perform in front of potential people. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of business owners that were going to be there, potential investors come to invest in businesses. This was a chance for me to showcase my music, what I do. I had just won the amateur CMA Entertainer of the Year and for the state of Utah. And so go down to LA. I mean, I'd saved up money to go, spent all this money to go down there, performed. And this is so sweet. But in the middle of I got to perform twice. In the middle of the week, this lady walks up to me and she's wearing this green, kind of like buy from Walgreens sweatshirt with puffy paint on it that her grandkids had made for her. It was around Thanksgiving time. Okay. It was a Christmas one, had a little Christmas tree on it and everything. And she goes, you're really good. And she goes, let's have lunch. And so a group of us had lunch and she asked me a ton of questions about what I was doing. And I was talking about some charity stuff I had just done. And she goes, I really like you, Ed. You're a good guy. And that was it. And then at the end of the week, after my last performance, she came up to me and says, I want to help you. I had a lot of people say they wanted to help me, especially right after I perform or they meet me. They're excited, but then very few people are follow through. That's just the way things go. I thought she was just some retired secretary or something, it was just being sweet. And I said, can you do that? Like, what do you want to do? And she's like, oh, I got friends that are in the music industry. And again, I had heard that line 100 times. Come to find out, her and her husband were the ones that invented air fresheners, like the little Christmas tree cutouts. Yeah. They were the ones that brought Pokemon to America. They had this logistics company, and her husband and her son had passed away the year previous. And she was literally just out doing philanthropy. I didn't know that at this moment. So on the way back from LA, it's 3 a.m. I'm trying to get home in time for work. I fall asleep doing 80 miles an hour and roll my truck. I looked like I had been beat up by a group of people with baseball bats. It was ugly. So because I had spent most of my Monday to go down there and perform, then I was out of work for weeks. And then we were off for the holidays. I had totally forgot about her. And we roll into January and I'm eating those cans of soup that you collect that you never eat and club crackers. And I mean, that's all I have to eat. And I'm back going, God, did I make a mistake by spending what I had saved to go down there and perform? She calls me up. These are 2 lessons in charity. The first one was a lady called me up from the organization that put on these business conferences. And she goes, hey, we heard about what happened. We raised a bunch of money for you and Brian, the guy that was in the car with me. I said, you know what? Brian's worse off than me. Give him the money. He needs it more than me. And she's like, Ed, no, we do have money for Brian, but we also have money set aside for you. And I was like, seriously, just give it to Brian. She goes, and I'd never heard this lady cuss before. She goes, Ed, you asshole. She goes, there are people trying to bless you and you're withholding blessings from them by not receiving. And I went,
amen.
I realized I had been fighting the universe on receiving. I thought I had to go out and get. I thought I had to go out and take. I thought I had to go out and earn. Instead, the universe is there to bless us and just give to us. That was my first lesson in charity within this next week. And so I said, you know what, God, I'm opened up to receiving. I accepted the money, which was very humbling and humiliating for me, but I did it. And it helped me. And now I was going to be able to get through the next couple of months. And then out of the blue, Marge calls me, the lady with the grading, and she goes, are you ready for your life to change? So she was friends with a guy named Seth Riggs, who's considered one of the greatest vocal coaches ever. He's the guy that trained to the Jacksons, was Michael Jackson's personal coach all through his life and career. Bette Midler, Barbra Streisand, anyone flew around the world to meet with Seth Riggs. So she tells me she's flying me to LA to meet with Seth Riggs, and that if he says I've got talent enough, she's going to help me get started in Nashville. I flew to LA with her and she got me this beautiful hotel room overlooking the pier. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. And there was this gorgeous park outside there. And every night, so I did several lessons that week with Seth and met with him and got a lot of advice and mentorship from him. But every night I would sit there on the deck looking at the ocean and there were a group of homeless people would gather in the park across. Well, one night Marge takes me out for this huge seafood dinner. I mean, a group of 10 couldn't have eaten all the food that they brought us, but it was called the Seafood Feast for Two. It was 2 whole lobsters, 2 pounds of crab. There was like 2 pounds of potatoes and corn. And it took up most of this table, right? Just in opulent, like abundance. And I'm like, what are we gonna do with all this extra food? She's like, I don't know. I said, you know what? I said, why don't we have it packaged up and I'll take it to the homeless people that are always across the park. She was like, oh, that's a great idea. And this right here is the biggest lesson in charity I've ever learned. And it totally changed my entire life on how I saw the things that I did charity wise and philanthropy wise. And so they literally made me this giant swan out of aluminum foil with all the food in it. Like it was that fancy of a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so we go back to the hotel, we park under the hotel, and I said, I'm going to walk across the street. So I walk across the street. There was this one homeless guy that was always saying hi to everybody. It seemed like all the other homeless people knew him, and he was sitting at the table. So I walked up and I said, "Sir, are you hungry?" And he looks at me and he looks at this aluminum foil and he goes, "Yeah, I am." We had a bunch left over from dinner, and I set it down. And he opens it and he looks at this abundance of food he's probably hasn't tasted in a long time. And he looks up at me with this huge smile on his face. I didn't realize, but in that moment, I was expecting a thank you. I was expecting gratitude until he said, "I can feed my friends." Yes. This guy has nothing. He's got enough food to last him 4 or 5 days if he wants to spread it out. His first thought when he received the abundance was, what can I do for others? And he had nothing. And there wasn't anything wrong with me in the back of my head. I thought he was going to say thank you. There was nothing wrong with that. But the fact that he had even less than I did, and his first thought was still for others, changed me completely when it comes to how I see charity, how I do the giving that I give, and why I give back the way I do.
You know what's interesting about that? And I write notes, combination of I'm neurodivergent, and then because I am taking it all in. When you share that, what he did and how it affects you from an outside perspective, right? Because I haven't heard that story before. I didn't know that part about you. I see that it's a reflection of yourself. And the reason is because when that organization was trying to bless you because you had fallen out of the truck, your instinct was to give it to your friend.
Because in my mind, he was worse off than me.
Yes, you did the same thing that the homeless man did. And well, it is like you literally said no here, and she had to cuss at you to tell you, "Want to bless you," right?
Yeah, and to receive. That was
it, right? Because he did the same thing.
Yeah. But he was better at receiving than I was, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he gladly, he was straight up like, "Oh my gosh, now I can go and bless others." And
That's it.
yeah, it was huge.
But that talks about heart, right?
But that's why in every business I have, we have a charitable give back to it. So like Frontline Beard Co. that we started, it's all about premium, toxin free, high quality products. It's all about men's health, real men's health. And but we have a 501c3 that also, just like we did at Firehouse Subs, a portion of all sales goes to fire, police, and military grants.
Right.
Like there has to be, I don't feel complete in the work that I'm doing if there's not a give back component to it.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Sure.
I promised Ed that we were going to stick to 20 minutes. He didn't believe that was true. So I'm going to just intentionally prove a point that we are. But I'm going to go into the secondary question here in a second. But before I do, I think it's important out of this episode, if all you get out of this episode today is the reminder, so often we get blessed. You can hit your lowest of your lowest, your highest of your highest. It is your responsibility, in my opinion, to give back, to always keep your eyes, ears, and heart open. Because if you have the opportunity to bless someone, whether it's through a contact, a connection, monetarily, just listening, whatever it is, give back. I cannot stress that enough. Out of everything we're going to talk about today, I hope that you really see the magnitude, because you can truly change. It's in those moments where you can truly change someone's life. Like you can really change it, the trajectory.
And your own.
Yes. And what you gain out of that is amazing. The last question real quick is, what's something, and again, I'm going to give you a minute on this one, but what's something you're currently learning for your personal growth?
Something that I'm currently learning. So I love the whole Extreme Ownership series by Jocko Willits and Leif Babin. And I'm working on the Dichotomy of Leadership book right now. And there are a lot of dichotomies in leadership. And I'm loving it.
I'm going to wrap up real quick, you guys. Ed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you pick one of these questions. You get to read the question out loud, but you cannot answer it here. So what we do, you guys that have been following us, or if you're new, we read the question out loud on this episode. And in order to find Ed's answer, he's going to make the answer back as creative or as plain as he wants to post it out there. But there you go.
If you had to sum up your current season of life in a movie title, what would it be?
All right. So make sure, go follow him, go find him to get his answer. I'm wrapping up, but I want to remind you of something super important. Remember, I see you. I love you. You matter to me. Again, if all you get today is just share the gifts and your core purpose, your skill sets with others around you to help make the world a better place, I hope you do that. Go make the rest of this week amazing. We're going to go make it amazing. And with that, I will talk to you soon. Bye.